Welcome, everybody, to our interviews this evening. Thank you very much for the first interview. Mr. Trigel. That pronounced properly?
Troy.
Shirley, I'm sorry.
Troy all there. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
No worries.
Great, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say how everyone's doing.
But
Move on.
we're each gonna ask a question and have some time for you to certainly address. So we're gonna, well, we'll start with Mr. Ray to ask the first question.
Just a point of order, what happens if we ask you one question?
Well, simply, I've said on the email that we can use those questions that were there. It didn't say we have to use.
Right,
It
we
said-
we're only allowed to ask.
Well, we're gonna start because we have limited time, so we'd like to ask one question, and then after we all ask one, if there's time and if you'd like to, sure.
Great. Thank you for, do you have any opening comments you'd like to make before?
I just want to thank the mayor, council for inviting me to come up and interview for the position.
Okay, great. Mr. President, do you want to share the process at all with Mr. Trevelyan?
Well, you may be already aware, the process is we're interviewing anyone who sends in a resume, we're interviewing them. And then in our October meeting, we will be making an appointment. Okay. Then that's pretty much the process. It's not a whole lot much to it. We just welcome everybody who's interested.
Great, thank you.
Great.
I just thought of one thing, sorry, at our next meeting, there's gonna be a second opening.
Yeah, well, that'll be discussed at our next meeting in
No,
October.
but I'm just wondering, could we consider this interview?
No, I think you have to apply.
You do have to apply.
In October,
We'll discuss that at the October meeting. Tonight's strictly for interviews.
Yeah, we're
I don't want
doing-
to, I don't want to get into the actual deliberation of any.
No, sorry, but that's fine. My question was whether we can count this interview for the next opening also.
Yeah, well, we can discuss that at next month's meeting.
because in October, we will be announcing that in November, we'll be having interviews for a second position.
Thank you.
We're trying to keep everything.
I appreciate it.
One thing at a time. Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
Yeah, so, I didn't really look at the questions, so I have my own questions, if that's okay. And some of the questions I'm sure are gonna be looking for, your perspective on things out in the future, and mine are, more related to, current issues going on within the borough. What do you know about the concerns within the community over the swimming pool?
I have seen a lot of the discussion on Facebook. I've also read the meeting agenda minutes, and I've read all the design plans. And I've talked to others in the community about it. There's a lot of discussion about the different design choices that were picked by council, and then some members prefer a different design choice. I know there's a lot of issues with the amount of individuals that can fit within the pool, the sizing, pricing of the pool. Yeah, we're well versed in the issue.
So a follow-up to that, there's currently a petition with close to 450 names being circulated asking council to pause the design and seek additional feedback from residents and stakeholders. As a member of council, what would be your position on the situation? And how would you address the concerns of those residents?
So my big issue is always around transparency. That's one of the reasons I applied, is that I believe in a lot of transparency in the government. And I want to take that action. I think it's important to have the voice of the community heard. We're all taxpayers. We are essentially the owners of council. We are all the bosses of everyone who's on council. You merely speak for us on our behalf. And I think that everyone needs to have their voice heard. If a bad choice was made, then we need to discuss it. We need to reevaluate those plans. Do we go back to the designer and go, these aren't working for us? Can we amend these designs? Where are we at for pricing? The pool is 60 years old. It needs replaced at some point. So do we delay it here to get additional design specs to go, here's the community's concern. What can we do? That would be my thoughts.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Panda, do you want to go ahead?
Yes,
What do you know about Green Tree's Oktoberfest and what do you think of it?
I like Green Trees Oktoberfest. It's different. No other communities around here do something like that. Crafton does a fall fest. Ingram does their the fall fest. It's different. It has a lot to do with what makes Green Tree unique. I just heard you guys discussing September 1885, I believe, is the founding of this borough.
Yes.
So next year will be an anniversary year. Do we do something special in September during Oktoberfest for the community's anniversary? That'll be a great time to showcase the community, showcase what Green Tree offers that other communities don't do. We have a car cruise, we have craft shows, we have all sorts of vendors. You know, what can we spotlight about Green Tree at Oktoberfest when all these businesses, the individuals are coming here, and we have their attention versus other communities?
Thank you. Microphone answer.
Thank you.
Shannon?
Yeah, sure. So please tell us, about any activities, knowledge, and professional experience that you have that would contribute to the effectiveness of serving on Borough Council. This could be policy implementation, budgeting, conflict resolution, etc. And what do you believe is your strongest skill as a leader, and how do you see that skill benefiting council and the Green Tree community?
Sure. So I think I just hit my first year on the Civil Service Commission within the community. We finally put forth names to replace to fill the open vacancies for the police officers of the community. I've learned a great deal in the past year just doing that. But it's given me great insight into working with Chief Rannigan, other members of council. Spent a lot of time working with Mr. Mayor, working with Judy. It's been great to get a more involved sense of the community. Professionally, I work doing a lot of project management. I do a lot of mediation within groups and bringing people together who don't want to get together. And it seems like, especially in the past 6 months, there's been a lot of issues with council in a sense of, people not getting along. And when that happens, the effectiveness of government goes down. When everyone's sitting here pointing fingers at each other and everyone's trying to blame each other, nothing gets done. There's so much that needs done in this community that Borough Council needs to work on, but instead there's a lot of divisiveness. And that's all of what's going on in politics right now. And I want to come on board and I want to try to wrench some of those. Does it take an outside thought to go, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Somebody who hasn't worked in this position. I do a lot of that work because I worked in a litigation side for a law firm and I do IT. So I'm able to bring a lot of lawyers together who know nothing about IT to come together and go, here's what we're trying to do with our IT department. And this is how we can implement that to make your job more effective and make you bill more hours to your clients, which attorneys love that. Figured you'd like that one.
What do you believe is your strongest strength as a leader?
My strongest strength as a leader is the ability to get along with everyone. I'm a people pleaser. I like to make people happy. That's what I try to do. It's how I grew up. I grew up in an immigrant family, and that you try to help everyone out. It's a sense of community. You may not have much, but what you do have, you share with others, and that's what I try to do. I try to help everyone get along. I try to help people do what needs done. My neighbor recently passed away. I've been cutting her grass for the family, so they don't have to come over and do it. It's just about helping each other. It's a sense of community, it's a sense of involvement.
Okay, so basing this off of some of your responses, you've talked about divisive issues in the community, council, all of these things. Sometimes in council, you have to look at things in a fiscal manner instead of a personal manner. How would you wrestle with that personally when maybe a decision you have to render because you feel it is in the best interest of the borough may be different than what some of the public may do? Because that does happen, as you've seen, and it's a question of how do you handle
It comes with the role, especially with the Civil Service Commission, after going through and dismissing applicants for the first round and seeing a lot of the community being upset that we still are short officers. You just let it roll off your back. You don't take it personally. You know, I know the borough has a garbage contract coming up in a few years that I've seen other communities where it's gone from, you can throw it wherever you want to, you can only throw what fits in that trash can. And now you're paying every month for trash collection. That's gonna be coming up soon. And I don't think everyone behind me wants to start paying additional taxes and wants to now be limited on what they can throw out. It's what can the borough do to start to put some arms around that? Also, on top of that, have businesses who they're gonna be appealing their property taxes. That's gonna be a huge thing for the borough. Foster Plaza's right behind my house. I'm sure those businesses are waiting for their assessment to come up so they can go, hey, everyone works remotely now. These buildings that were worth $60 million, worth half that. That's a big tax roll for the borough.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry for the mask. I went to the Steeler game a week ago Sunday and came down last week. I'm better now, but for COVID, so that is distance of protection.
That's good to hear.
I'm feeling fine. Don't have any fevers or anything. I noticed that you lived in Green Tree for the last 15 years.
Right.
That's good. And then that you're on the Green Tree Civil Service Commission. Well, thank you for your service. I know that you've been coming to the meetings at 7:30 on Thursdays is when the Civil Service Commission meets on an as-needed basis. So I've attended most of those meetings. You faithfully attended all those. It had input into, they've been busy because we've had a couple different civil service lists lately. And the current one, you did certify 6 recently. We had 6 good candidates. So you've gone through that full process. So we thank you for that. In regard to your professional background, it does say cybersecurity and e-discovery litigation. Could you be a little more specific about your current job and current responsibilities?
Sure, my current title is Manager of Forensics, Incident Response, and Physical Security. I am in charge of a company that's breached. So if you see on the news about Russian hackers or anything like that, me and my team defend companies against that. I determine what caused the breach, mitigate the breach, and remove those threat actors from those companies and provide reports of what occurred. Work remotely, so that's why it's easy to attend those meetings early in the morning. That does involve a lot of project meetings with others in the company where maybe there was a network intrusion and they need logs off the network firewall. So it comes bringing together a bunch of teams who are ready, not too happy to hear what happened and are concerned after the finger pointing, going, your gap in the firewall allowed this to happen, your gap in your EDR tool allowed this to occur. But it's about not placing blame, about speaking truth. There's a lot of what I do. As far as the e-discovery work, it kind of goes hand in hand with cybersecurity and digital forensics. So it's a lot of searching mailboxes for key terms. You know, maybe Mr. Leland sent an email to you about something that is relevant to a case. My job would be to search both your mailboxes for terms related to that email and extract it and provide it to counsel, legal counsel, to review, produce that in defense of whether something malicious or not did occur.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, what do you know about the role of a local elected official?
I have a friend who's does a degree in public service, so I talked to him at length about this. A lot of people asking, are you sure? I read the charter of the borough for that and a lot of the rules around this to make sure it's something I want to do. I know the role is only for a year before it would be up for re-election anyway. So I thought this would be a good chance to kind of dip my feet deeper into politics.
You know, some of the, part of the role, what you're required to do, what you're studying about that.
Yeah, I know there's a monthly meeting and I saw, I think this role, there were a few groups, it was like general finance, I believe the individual was in charge of. So I saw there were some vacancies within those kind of groups. I'm assuming that would fill either the ones we read or apply, however that will go.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? we have to actually have a few minutes, but before that, would you like to say anything? Any questions? Anything further?
I didn't bring anyone on to speak on my behalf. The one person I would have brought is, Mr. Dave Mons, but he's in Italy right now on vacation. So I believe he sent an email on my behalf to put his weight behind I think probably a good fit. I'm excited for this. I, if chosen, I'm happy to work with everyone, no matter what your view is on the pool, what your view is on what's coming into the borough, what's occurred. The beauty behind somebody who's not been on council, and everything going on is that it comes to a clean slate and somebody who can bring out of the box thinking. And a lot of what I do at work is out of the box thinking and trying to find ways to make things happen. I'm excited for that. Let's pick them. Happy to do whatever it takes to move this community forward. And I think that's the most important thing on the whole, not just one or two items. It's how do we make Greentree better? How do we bring more businesses in the community? How do we bring younger people in? When I moved into this area, I was the youngest person on my street. And I can see as the aging population is leaving, not many younger people are coming in. How do we bring in younger families? How do we bring in families with kids? We have a lot of schools that get those filled up with kids. I know there was a questionnaire sent out, it was like 2 years ago, of what would you like to see in the community? Some of the things there were like a brewery, other kind of community functions. So I'm excited to work with any of that kind of stuff that we can do to help bring people into our community who want to live here.
So with the time remaining, and thanks for that, could you get a little bit more specific on what's the, like, if you had a magic wand, what are some of the things that you would do if you were serving on council that have big impact in the region?
So I have an unlimited budget.
Let's just, for the sake of it, you have no budget.
Sure. I put sidewalks on every street. I recently, in the last few years, I think everyone, like after COVID, it's either become a gym nut or not. I love walking our community. And I almost get creamed on my street daily, because people just fly up and down the street. There's no sidewalks to segregate me from the road. Make the community more walkable. That's the big thing you always see when you go to Mount Lebanon. Everyone's walking around the community. We don't get that a lot here because Green Tree Road is such a busy road, and then a lot of those side streets don't have sidewalks. You're walking the road. I got a dog last year. I'm too afraid to walk him in the area because he's a little dog and he's gonna be creamed by a car. So I don't even walk them around. Other things I would do is, what is attracting people into other communities? Is it affordable housing? How do we make housing affordable? Do we offer tax amnesty for 10 years for people who moved into the area? If you move in and keep roots here for at least 5 years, you won't pay property tax for 5 years. Do we give amnesty for police officers for taxes if you live local to the area? It'd be nice to have police officers who live in the community instead of have them driving 45 minutes, an hour away, wherever they may live. It gives them a sense of community. What other functions do we have? We have a pool. Set that whole thing aside, could you get more land? You put in a smaller pool in one area, bigger pool in one. You put in some additional amenities we have a pool in the summer. What do we do in the wintertime? Can we turn some areas into like sledding, skiing for people to utilize? Berkeley Center Mall has become an abandoned area. Some of that area could be ripe for what can we do for entertainment purposes. Axe throwing has become a big thing. Do you give incentives for people to open up small businesses? A brewery, axe house, even just something like a community kitchen, where it's pop-up restaurants. Every week is a different kind of restaurant that comes in and brings people there. And you could put something like outdoor seating, put in like a pub, just something that brings in people in like the 20 to 35 age crowd who have the extra money to spend, aren't concerned about mortgages and all that kind of stuff, are willing to spend money like it's coming in out the door.
This is the point, we have a really great dog park out there. You can exercise your dog and meet people.
I do. I have the dog park.
Okay.
But it sucks. I can't walk them around the park. It's like I don't want people looking at me going, oh, he's walking his dog through the park, you're not allowed to. Just go to the dog park.
That's why I said.
I have a follow-up question. We still have a couple of minutes. So, I love magic wand. It's great to think about that. But we know that magic doesn't exist, right? So, or at least not in the sense that I can procure a wand and give us unlimited budgets. So with that, I would like to hear your thoughts on, the taxes that we pay as residents. If they're too high, fair, or somewhat low in consideration to what other communities charge for the residents and their amenities provided. And what things would you consider for decisions regarding taxes and priorities and borough spending?
So taxes, I don't know anyone who's ever gonna say they want to pay more in taxes. I'm always happy to pay less. I have a mortgage, I really don't see much of my tax money, it just goes right out back the door. My in-laws live in the city and they refuse to move closer to us. Because the taxes are so high compared to other areas. And I know my wife would love to have her parents essentially be neighbors, that we should take care of them, but their taxes are like $900 a year for their house. Versus mine are almost $4,000. And with them being on a fixed income, it's just not feasible. My question then goes back of where is money going? What is the biggest expenditure for Green Tree Borough? How can we curtail spending? Is spending an issue? Are we not collecting taxes from people we should be? Are there people dodging taxes? Are there businesses not paying taxes? The question then becomes, outside of businesses, personal use tax. Income tax is 1%. I can't imagine wanting to raise that to 1 or 2, because every community around you now is lower. So I guess the question becomes, where are the top 3 expenditures for the borough? Anyone know that?
Did you look at our budget at all?
I looked at it a little bit. I know a lot of it is like police officer spending. There's a good bit for retirement funds. It's always a big thing. But not too well versed in like the top items that expenditures are.
Police department's number 1. But just another point, we reserving time for resident feedback between the interviews, or are we doing that after, just so that we stay on schedule here? If there's time. Want to, or we.
Sure. After this, we have 6 minutes. That's fine. That's fine.
We want to see.
Yeah, we need to stay on track. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for stepping up.
I was referring to opening it up for resident feedback.
Yeah, be good. But he's fine. He wants to say that.
Wait, is there any questions you have specifically for us? You?
Me, do I need to stay all night? Yeah,
No.
okay, I was just wondering if I stayed all night, like, there's a forum afterwards.
You're free to go.
You have to stay on night if you're on council, but you're not on council. Okay.
You're good.
You're fine. No problem. Thank you very much.
For your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank feedback. Anybody wants to say anything? Guess about Robert, you can. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, you have something you want to ask him?
Yeah, just in general regarding any of the candidates. There was some information that came out that, during the course of his answers that helped with some of the things, but like when a resident comes to speak in a meeting, or I should mention Aldo Pilati, 143 Sheldon, if whoever is the candidate could say their name and address, that would be helpful.
Oh, okay, sure.
So that, and perhaps the spelling, because I didn't get the spelling on his name.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank-
I'll
And that
get,
goes for all other candidates.
Mr. Trilly, do you want to get up and do that since you're still here?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
sure.
you.
My name's Robert Torrelia. I live at 1135 School Street.
And, do you want to spell your last name for?
It's not that Sure, it's C as in dog, R-E, G as in George, L-I-A.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much for being here. I really appreciate you stepping up.
No
Very
problem.
important we have people willing to step up.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, feedback.
So another question, I'm not gonna argue with council whether or not an agenda was needed for the meeting, but I'm just curious as to why we didn't publicize the schedule to the community so that they knew who was being interviewed. Just wanted to know the rationale behind the decision.
That's a conversation better saved for next week's meeting, since that's more on the topic of business tonight. Really no deliberation amongst council members.
Great.
Alan? You?
And we had somebody else back out. It's like,
No, he's here.
No, we did.
Oh, we did?
Sure.
Sorry. Mr. Sugar.
Yeah, the schedule.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant just now.
Okay.
Harry asked him to state his name and address for the record.
Yes, please.
Jeff Natale, 895 Cherry Street.
Thank you very much. Thanks for, stepping up to, try to be on council. That's what we want. We want more citizens to be more involved in the community. So it's part, well, we're gonna ask you, if you're familiar with the process, I can explain it to you.
Yeah, I've met all of you through the planning committee just about here, so
So you're good.
Shannon, I haven't met you before. Jacob, I'm not sure if we've met either. I don't believe it's like the rest of the team I have, met. I'm pretty new here. So
Okay.
nice to meet you.
So typically, we're just gonna, everyone on council is gonna ask you a question, and the mayor is gonna ask you a question. Then we'll certainly ask for any statement you'd like to make, do that beforehand, later. And then if we have any time left over, we may ask some additional questions. But we just wanna make sure that everybody has a chance, and you, sir, have a chance to provide any feedback, any questions.
Sure.
So we will, unless you have an opening statement.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, we'll rotate around. So, Mr. Panza, what to be first?
Yes, Mr. Natali, what do you know about Green Tree Oktoberfest and what do you think of Green Tree Oktoberfest?
I was just at Green Tree Oktoberfest. I think it's a great event, for the community. It seemed like it was, really well attended. There were a lot of people there enjoying, the day and enjoying the actual, event itself. So I think it's a very nice thing for Green Tree.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move to Shannon.
Sure, I have it written down, give me 1 second, to pull it up, I like to take my own notes, so. Okay, so, can you please, tell us about any activities, knowledge, and professional experience that will contribute to your effectiveness serving on Borough Council, including policy implementation, budgeting, conflict resolution? And what do you believe is your strongest skill as a leader? And how do you see this skill benefiting council and the Green Tree community?
Okay, I feel like I'm sitting with these folks here, so I'm sorry for that. I think from a skills perspective, how I would answer that, I started my career in IT. and then from there move to operations and actually running the company. I was the COO for a large advertising company. So conflict resolution, teamwork, team building, strategic planning, project management, all of those types of skills are things that I've done throughout my career. I've told the team before here recently, I've semi-retired. So I've stepped out of the business world and now have the opportunity to do some more things in the community. I think one of the things that I could bring to the council would be my help from an advertising perspective. Again, I ran an advertising company. And again, my perspective, what I see happen in Greentree or what I've seen happen in Greentree is people like to call it a lack of transparency. I would call it a lack of knowledge, where the community might not get the information that this council would like it to get. I think communication is one of the biggest issues that any company struggles with. As a communications company, we struggled with communication. So it is something, again, that I think could help the council, that could help the community. The poll might be a good example of that. I have stayed completely out of the poll. I did not get involved in what was going on with the poll. For several reasons, but the main reason being my thought, again, was that I would assume that council had done everything that it needed to do in order to get ready to move forward with building a new pole. I would, however, comment that with the amount of people that came, with the amount of frustration, with the amount of voicing concern, with the amount of, I didn't know that, with the amount of, I never heard that. I think communication would have gone a long, long way into resolving that issue. Again, that's my perspective on it. So that's what I would bring to the council to answer your question,
Thank
Shannon.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Emma?
So I've already interviewed you once, so I
Yes.
know a lot about where we were going with planning commission, so I'm gonna go more towards the role of a council person. You have worked on planning commission now, you've been watching, I know you watch the meetings, I know you come to several meetings. What do you feel your role as a council person would be in the terms of how we're set up? And what are topics that you are most concerned and want to participate in addressing within the council structure?
Okay, let me answer one of the biggest concerns I have first. The concern would be Aiken School. It is a gem in this community. It is something that brings people to this community. The fact that children do not have to go out of this area to go to school is a big thing, and I don't have children. But I do think that, and let me go on the record to say that even without children, I do contribute to society. But without the school here, Greentree would really not be the thriving community that it is. So I think it's very important that we keep the school. I think it's very important that we continue to involve the residents in information and sharing and projects. You know, one of the things that, Ron, that I said to you when I asked you how the meeting went the other day, one of the things I said that what I would like to hear from council is every time there is a budget or a project of X amount of size, and we can decide what X amount of size is, that it's explained to the public where that money's coming from. I mean, to me, before we had even talked about a poll, I would have liked to have known if my taxes were going up. And then I could have spoken to that issue stronger. Or before the park gets renovated, I was sitting on the planning committee, Emily, and one of the things that came through, Judy, the request came through from you to approve the renovation of the park. And I'm not gonna get the numbers exactly right, but the grant, I'm gonna say, was for $125,000. The ask was for $200,000. And everyone on the planning committee said yes. It was my first night on the planning committee, and I said yes. And then I went home and I thought that was the craziest thing that I've ever done. I just said yes to $25,000 that I had no idea where it was coming from or how it would affect the residents of Green Tree. So I went on record at the second planning meeting to say that I would never vote or never pass or never recommend the passage of something unless I knew where the funds were coming from, that it had been approved, that it was within budget, and if it was a tax issue, the residents of Green Tree had been told about that prior to that project start. So that's how I would answer that question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, just a couple background questions, several here, but how long have you lived in Green Tree now?
25, 26 years.
And past involvement in the Green Tree community, you indicated you've been busy at work, you have more time now.
Right.
What has been your past involvement?
I haven't been involved a lot. I've attended some of the meetings. I had some personal issues with some water problems. I worked with the council and Dave Mons. This was a while back. So I do go to the meetings, I do watch the meetings, but I've been more actively involved in the last 6 to 9 months.
And for you, and I should know this, planning commission, you mentioned the planning commission. So how long have you been on the planning commission?
I'm the newest member of the planning commission. I've just been there maybe a month, a couple months,
It's been a couple.
couple months.
He filled the empty seat after show.
And you've attended several meetings?
Yes, I had attended several meetings prior to joining the committee. I wanted to see what the committee was like. I came to some of the council meetings prior to joining the planning committee as well, just to get a take on how things work in Green Tree and with the council.
And in regard to the communication, I mean, you indicate, which is good, that you're big on communication and that you've worked for an advertising company that looks like between 2008 and 2020. Before that, you worked for another advertising company. Do you have any main recommendation or how communication from council, from the mayor could be better?
You know, that's always a tough one. It's easy for someone to Monday morning quarterback. I'll give you an easy example on the app. So Dave tuned me into the app and I thought, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. I can just look at the app and get all of the questions. Well, I downloaded the app, but I didn't sign in and create an account. So I wasn't getting any notifications at all. So I came to one of the meetings and the meeting was canceled and I called Emily and Dave and said, I'm sitting here at this meeting and there's no one here. They said, oh, the meeting was canceled. I said, well, we need to work on communication then. Only to find out it was my mistake of not using the app right, but the app never suggested that I should sign in. It never said I wouldn't get alerts. I mean, there was no prompting to go along with it. So some simple communication around the app may have made the app a whole lot easier to use and more useful. So it's those types of communication things, I think, that can help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm up next. What do you know about the role of local government? What do you know about local government? Boroughs? You elaborate on anything in the function?
As far as, do you mean running the borough? Do you mean serving on a board?
Just how local government works?
Oh, yes, I'm familiar with local government. I certainly pay attention to what happens in the local government along with the federal government, as well. I like to be educated on issues and understand, what I'm talking about before I give an opinion, before I give my opinion, one way or the other on an issue. So I've been actively involved in politics, at least personally, all of my life.
I guess I should have been more specific, more of the functions, what we do, what we're responsible for, anything. I'm not saying you have to be an expert, I just was curious to know what you know about budget, police, public work, anything related to a borough.
I mean, yes,
Right.
all of that. I mean, I'm sure, Judy and I have been trying to meet now for a couple of months to talk about how the planning committee could work with her office. I'm familiar with, the resolutions and the things that you pass and meetings and the code ethics, code meetings and that type of thing.
Thank you. Great.
Jeff, as a visionary leader in your professional career, what big ideas do you have for Green Tree?
Well, one of the things, like I said, I talked about was the school. I think it needs to be a number one issue. Protecting that school, and making sure that it stays here and we should have Green Tree should have a plan, for that. I think, again, getting people more actively involved up front would help. I think we need to watch expenses and taxes and what that means to the residents in Green Tree. I think we should, that Green Tree should, well, let me back up for a minute and I'll speak personally rather than speaking what I believe Green Tree should. I would hope that this council would be more open to communication from people. When I come to this meeting or when I've attended this meeting, and I know there's been some tenuous issues that have been talked about, at times I see this group go personal real quick, rather than stick on the issue of business and the business of Green Tree. So that's one of the things that I would suggest would be a more open communication. Let me give an example of that. One of the things there was Judy, when you were trying to pass the contract that outsourced the poll. So we came to this meeting, and in the meeting, Bart, what you said was, okay, citizens, you have 5 minutes to say what you want to say, and that's it. And you said everything you wanted to say. But the citizens got 5 minutes. That to me sounded wrong. That to me sounded like it was time to start listening rather than talking. So that would be my honest opinion back as to.
Usually it's 3.
Oh, I think-
Everybody 5.
Pardon me?
Usually it's 3 is what the typical, at a meeting is it's 3. I let people have 5.
Okay,
Just say,
okay. I mean, I
I hear you.
I left that meeting feeling like I came as a citizen of Green Tree. I came as a taxpayer of Green Tree. I came as a 25-year taxpayer of Green Tree. And I left very frustrated. I didn't leave thinking that the team, that the council was really fighting is the wrong word, was really representing the citizens of Green Tree at that point. Or, let me take that back and step that back a little bit, was actively listening to what the citizens of Green Tree wanted to say.
Anything else? Anybody have any thoughts? You have, certainly, do you have any additional thoughts, any questions? Questions would be good, whatever.
Yeah, I do have some questions. I mean, is this committee open to new members, and are you open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. And I would ask all of you that, because again, my thought would be, I don't want to sit on a committee that's just going to do the same thing because that's the way we've done it for the last 20 years. Now, when it makes sense to do it the same way we've done it the last 20 years, then it makes sense. But when someone has a great idea and that great idea is just different than it was last year, if Oktoberfest starts the week later or a week earlier, it might not be the end of the world. If the color of the equipment in the park is blue or green, it might not be the end of the world. So I think at times staying more focused on the issues at hand and really serving the residents of Green Tree would be a good thing for this council. So that's what I'm looking, Dave. One of the things that you asked me was, what's my vision? My vision is, I think we need to change as the time changes. One of the meetings, I brought up about being able to vote from home. And I think Shannon, at that point, I don't know if it was you that was working from home at that point, at that time, but it was taken as, I felt that it was taken as, oh my gosh, this is like a crazy idea that we would work from home or that we would vote from home on an issue. We should be able to use technology to allow us to do a whole lot of this stuff without attending an actual meeting. Again, with getting information out to people may be easier. Maybe people will opt into a database where they want emails from Green Tree. Maybe they do want the agenda sent to them every week to see if they want to come. Maybe there's, and again, I'm talking out of my head, but I'm talking, there's probably ideas that some of these folks have and a lot of other folks have in Green Tree that may be different from currently how we do things, and maybe there's some good ideas out there. You know, Emily, one of the things we talked about in the planning meeting was that Emily represents the planning committee, not necessarily just Emily's, what Emily believes should happen in the planning committee. So that when the planning committee sits there and does work and says, Emily, this is what we want you to take back to the council, but she's not in agreement with it, she's got to be able to take back to council what the committee asked for and what the committee is suggesting and put her own personal belief of that issue to the side. So I'd like to see some of that, and I'd like to be involved in that going forward with Green Tree.
So to your question, my answer would be yes.
Good, thank you.
I mean, the worst statement I ever hear is it's the way we've always done it. I think that's the worst sentence in the world, because just because it's the way you've always done it doesn't mean it's the best practice, doesn't mean it's the most effective. So yes, I'm always looking at things. I mean, the one thing to understand that because you are working with government, there are barriers and structures that you do have to stay within because of law and things like that. But in general, yes, I think we're always open to finding better ways to accomplish our goals. Clear.
I would agree. I'm always open to new things. And I would say exactly what Emily just said. There are things that really show us the way that we have to do certain things in terms of processes and things. But I will say that once we get these 2 vacancies filled, we will have a council that now has 4 people who have served less than 10 years. In fact, all of us will have served less than 4. So truly, we will have no option to do things differently. We will have the majority of us are new, whereas, you know, everyone else has served at least a decade. So, you know, that in itself is going to cause, we'll just have to do it. Yeah.
One of the things that, again, I can take from my experience in the planning committee. You know, I was new to the committee and I'm coming in and I didn't want to make a big wave or anything like that. I wanted to see what the committee does. But one of the things that we started to talk about is how we interact with, Judy and with her team. And when I brought up bringing Judy to the planning committee meeting, it seemed as if I was opening up Pandora's box. It's like, you want to do what? You want to ask her to come where? And I said, I want to ask her to come here. And I want her to tell me exactly what it is she wants the planning committee to do. So that we can help, so that we can do what we should be doing. We should be able to ask each other those questions. Judy, what do you need? Ron, I don't agree with you on that issue, but make me understand your point of view. Explain it to me. Maybe you can convince me that I can see it a different way. Again, I'm reiterating and repeating, but that's my spiel. That's fine.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, questions for me?
No.
Questions for me, anyone? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so much.
thanks very much, sir.
It is. Well, that's said that Jake is in my group, but it's all that kind of talk. But really, it's just because of cold and I've been talking about it.
This first side note, these are the minutes from the very first Green Tree meeting. That on our 140th anniversary next year, I plan on us reenacting the first meeting.
In period costume.
I was gonna say, I'm only gonna do it if I can wear a costume.
We will. Some of the highlights, there was too much car traffic going Green Tree Road and not enough horse stalls along Green Tree Road. So,
I mean, we could resolve that, right? We need more horses.
I think we'll have a good time.
If anybody's okay with this, Mr. Grab, you believe you're here. If you would like to, you could wait, or you could do it now.
I apologize. I don't think I did before, so I went out to take them and see you in the hall. Okay. Go ahead and have a seat.
Saving everybody's time.
Maybe just state your name and your address.
Sure. My name is Andy Grab. I am at 12 Terrace Drive.
Okay, so probably heard some of the additional introductory that we're basically all ask you a question. You certainly have time to open statements, any statements or any questions you have, we certainly appreciate it. Once again, we do appreciate you stepping up. Can't say that.
Yeah, I mean, just while we were sitting here listening to the other candidates and you asked about the charter, I pulled it up and reviewing it. Just noticing that it did say specifically about both citizen involvement and communication, and respect for council. So I think that's definitely a two-way street. I think council as a whole gets a lot of grief. There are times that I think it is very warranted. There are times that I think it could be toned down a little bit. I know I can speak for myself personally. I've only recently started coming to council meetings, so I always believe that the government is, whether it's local, federal, state, whatever, is a reflection of the people who voted for it and how involved they are. So, I think it's okay to get frustrated with government officials to an extent, but at the same time, if I'm not showing up, participating, contributing, offering suggestions, getting engaged and involved, there's only so far that those complaints can go. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think that's a two-way street, for the government, council to be effective. They have to communicate effectively with the citizenry. The citizenry also has to be involved. I can't speak for anybody else. I can speak for myself and saying, I don't think up until probably the past 6 or 7 months, I was not as involved with the rest of it.
Or you're involved in the fire department. So,
Yes, you are involved. Maybe.
That better?
Okay, we will begin now, and, Shannon, you are.
Sure, so the same question then, since I'm starting it off. So when we are, you talked about your involvement, and you are, serve for a volunteer, fire department, but could you please tell us about any activities, knowledge, and professional experience that would contribute to your effectiveness in serving on borough policy? Examples being policy implementation, budgeting, conflict resolution, etc. And what do you believe is your strongest skill as a leader, and how do you see this skill benefiting council and the Green Tree community?
Sure. So I would handle that by answering the second question first. Just in terms of leadership, I can only speak in the terms that I have experience with, mainly leadership within my home, and in the very brief experience I have coaching youth sports. As a leader, you need to be capable and willing to make difficult decisions and explain those decisions to people, and not be disrespectful with them, but also be firm and be truthful, while still allowing people to, express their opinions, their emotions, their feelings. But also, if you're in a position to make a leadership decision, you need to be able to make that and live with that, while still communicating that effect. In terms of policies or policy implementation, I can honestly say I don't really have a ton, with the exception of, some admin stuff within the fire department that is very minimal. Doesn't really affect more than anyone within the fire department, so not anything on the scale of council. Just in terms of communication within different opinions and people in general, my day-to-day job, I'm a case manager for people with intellectual disabilities. That requires a lot of communicating through non-traditional means with people who have communication issues, and also bridging the gap between those people and the people on the team who do not have communication issues. So, setting up team meetings and communicating the needs and wants of my clients to all the other team members involved to make sure that the clients are getting what they need, what they want. I can tell you for the past, going on 3.5 years at this point, I've been on the local athletic board for the hockey organization that my kids play in. Very similar, obviously not, again, to the scale of council, but similar in terms of, decisions need to be made. For the most part, people are okay with it, but you're always gonna have people that are dissatisfied with it. And there's ways to, amend any of those disagreements and effectively communicate that to the people who have to live with or live under those decisions. So I feel that that would be something that could possibly translate well to council.
So you moved into the borough in 2020, so you came in right at the funnest time of all. So as someone who is a new resident of Green Tree, in reference to some other people, what do you see as a new resident that you would like to see changed or enhanced? And where do you see the borough going in the future, 5, 10, 15 years from now? What do you think the most important projects that we as council can work on for the residents in the long term?
So when we moved here, we moved from the city. I lived in the city my entire life, grew up there, saw it change within, from
the late eighties, early nineties to what it is now. There was mainly the school districts was the reason that we came to Green Tree. You know, having been in Green Tree prior to living here, it's a nice area, so that was obviously a selling point as well. But mainly the school districts and the neighborhoods. One of the primary concerns I see, and it's gotten better to a degree, now that we have Chipotle and Jersey Mike's opened up, Burger King prior to that, but seeing a lot of vacant storefronts. And blighted properties. I can tell you, my backyard looked directly down into one on Poplar that was recently demolished. I understand just on my knowledge of government as a whole, whether it's local, state or federal, the wheels of government tend to turn slowly, and that is for a reason, and it's for a good reason. I just with situations like that and not being privy to all the details, I wonder if those situations could have been addressed quicker or through different means. And again, I could be way off base, and you know, the way they were handled was the only route that was available. But as a property owner, those are things that concern me because I saw similar things within the city prior to us moving. And while I am by no means against rental properties, I think with rental properties, there needs to be very stringent rules and codes for upkeep. Just because in general, I think if you do not own the property that you live in, or you are not paying towards owning it, I think it is very difficult for somebody to be invested in their community in that situation. And that's not specific to anybody. I think that's just human nature. If you don't have skin in the game, i.e. this is my property, I'm paying on it, I'm going to own it one day, I think it's a lot easier just to say, screw it like that. So, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We move on to Mr. Mayor.
Yes, hi, Andrew. You indicated, you moved to Green Tree in the early 2020, so you've been here about 4 years. When did you become the volunteer fireman in Green Tree?
I joined in the late spring, early summer of 2022.
And you had prior training, or did you go?
I did not.
Okay.
Went through training because of the fire department and at the cost of the fire department, for which I'm very grateful.
So you joined Cool, you're gonna go through numerous hours of training, correct?
Correct, 166.
And you attended 166, did you say?
Correct, while balancing 2 kids, full-time job and all that, yes.
And then do you go to the meetings? The fire department meets every Tuesday, so you're a regular attendee of those meetings.
For the most part, yes. I freely admit the months of April until August, and then from September until November, no, just because of my kids' sports and having coaching all 4 of their teams. That timeframe, I don't go to the meetings, but still respond to calls day or night, doesn't matter the time.
How many calls do you think you respond to a year?
I know last year total, I think we were right around 252. I believe I responded to 225 of those. I can tell you the past 2 years, I was the #1 responder and hoping to be this #1 responder again this year.
You're very good. Thank you very much for that. And then you mentioned you coaching youth sports. What sport? Is it hockey? Is it you?
Well, yes, so both of my boys play deck hockey. So I coach their deck hockey team. I run the youth program that is younger than them at that deck as well. That's where I'm on the board there. And then I coach them here in Green Tree for Green Tree baseball. So 2 separate teams there for 2 different things.
Where's the deck hockey league?
It's in Brookline, so it's not because that's where we used to live. It was right over in the Brookline Beachview area.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Next, by the way, I'm a Brookline guy too, so.
Okay.
Oh, it's good Brookline people come over here.
I was
Big
born in
stuff.
Portland too.
I was born in Carrick, but moved over to that way, so
That's all right, we're living.
they're not gonna hold it against me.
Made the right decision.
Fair enough.
My question is, what do you know about the role of a local elected official?
My estimation on it, I will freely admit, I pay far more attention to federal and state politics. However, I've come to realize that local being far more accountable, because it is local and it is people within your community that you can talk to and have interactions with on a much easier basis.
I think the role of local government should be to obviously make sure the community is safe and cared for and upkept. Public works, waste management, police, fires, volunteer, but along the same lines. So obviously taxes to pay for that upkeep. And I think also local government being somewhat of an intermediary between the citizens and the state government. I don't know how much interaction federally council would have, but I feel like there would be some interaction at the state level, in terms of securing grants, projects with PennDOT, that type of stuff. So.
Thank you very much. Move on, Mr. Ray.
Yeah, Andy, thanks again for coming and your interest in the vacant position. My question's a little bit more specific to a hot topic here in the borough. There's currently, as you know, a petition with about 450 names being circulated, asking council to pause the full design to seek additional feedback from residents and stakeholders. As a member of council, what would be your position of the situation, and how would you address the concerns of those residents?
So, I mean, as a member of council, I would obviously want to review all the details and know specifically what that would entail. I can tell you from the citizen side of things, if something raises that much concern and gets that much participation from the community, I think it should be given a little bit more discussion or a little bit more public communication than it has been given by council. I don't want to make it seem as though you guys haven't discussed it, because I'm sure, I don't doubt that it has been discussed. But I think that's something that is clearly a hot button issue. And I think it needs to be communicated to the citizens a little bit better. And back to what I said in my opening statement, I think that also requires earlier and better participation from both myself and the rest of Green Tree as well. Council serves at the behest of the citizens. Council was elected by the citizens. It is incumbent on the citizens to keep council accountable. And it is also incumbent on council to adhere to that accountability when it's brought up. I understand the time constraints that I'm sure all of you have. I would never discount that. And I say that because I come from a place where time is stretched as thin as I can possibly stretch it within reason. But I think something that has brought up this much concern from the citizens should be met with due concern from the council. And if that means that it's discussed and brought up and council says, hey, listen, we can pause this, if that's what you guys really want as a community. But here's what that could lead to, and present all those possible scenarios and give people the information and allow the citizens to make that educated decision. I think that would go a long way in building trust and restoring some of the trust that I feel has been fractured.
Okay, that's another question.
Sure.
So, raising it up a little bit from more specific to visionary, what big ideas do you have for council? If you're on borough council, big ideas you have that you think will make the biggest impact within the community?
I don't know how much input council would have on Aiken. I think that, my kids are there right now. They won't be there forever. But I would agree. I think Aiken, like the previous gentleman said, it's a gem. I think it's something that the community really prides itself on, and we should, because it's a really good school. It's good that the kids can stay in the borough. I also, again, the property ownership, businesses within the community. I think those are big points. Because I saw it where I was in the city, and it was one of the reasons that we left, is when your area that you live in doesn't have small local businesses, whether it's a local grocery store or a local drugstore that are within either a very short drive or walking distance, I think it is very difficult to have a thriving, developed community. Now, granted, the sidewalks were brought up, there's all kinds of other ancillary issues. But I think that the care of property ownership of businesses having a point of emphasis to be on that, to try and encourage and incentivize new businesses to come in. I see with the fire department, we run probably in a year, I would say upwards of 50 to 75 phantom calls or false alarms to whether it's a hotel or Foster Plaza or Parkway Center, any number of places that we go to. And I know previous council code had changed the fine schedule, I believe. And I don't know how effective that has been. But that's something where I feel like if those are properties that are different businesses in there, or businesses that have more people in them, for instance, Parkway Center or Foster Plaza. I know we've discussed that as, technology changes, people aren't working in the offices nearly as much. People are, able to work remotely. Is it time to look at that and see if different businesses can go in there, or if, it could be augmented or altered in some form. But I think having that thriving business culture and business district in Greentree is important. I know growing up, anytime you drive past the BB building, all the radio stations, Vincent's, all the businesses down along Noblestown, even though half of them are Greentree, half aren't. Parkway Center Mall, all the stuff up there, it was a hub. I made trips. I begged my parents to take me to Parkway Center Mall, take me to Family in the Attic. So, we would come here to shop and spend money. And you still see that to a degree, but I don't think we see it to the degree that we used to. Part of that is the way that brick and mortar businesses have gone in general. But I wonder if part of that could be solved via outside the box thinking with bringing in new businesses.
Thank you.
Mr. Pam? Greentree Oktoberfest. What do you know about it? What do you recommend?
I can tell you that, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't occur in 2020?
It did not occur in 2020 or 2021. So, yeah.
So I can tell you the past 2 years I've been up there, in spurts, shifts with the fire department and, take my kids up to eat and go to the rides and whatnot. I think it's good. It's a nice way to bring people into the community and showcase it. I don't know if it could be done better in terms of not just being limited to that space where it is. I don't know if planning commission or whoever handles that has mooted that, kicked that idea around and discussed it. Just in terms of trying to showcase what other businesses we have locally, incentivize people, hey, yeah, I really like Brutus Monroe, or I really like Mario's Pizza, or whatever it is. I want to come back and patronize that business, and in turn, tax dollars and reach. So I think it is good. I definitely think it's something that people look forward to, and I believe that it's good that we have it. I don't know if it could possibly be altered, whether it's, over a couple days instead of just one day, or multiple locations, or whatever it would be. But it's something I don't, again, like I think Emily mentioned, just because it's the way we've always done it. That works at times. I think there's a lot of times that that's a crutch for people and for us, and it doesn't always work. I've seen it in the fire department. I've seen it in organizations I've been a part of. It's easy. It's human nature. So it's not specific to anybody here. I think it's just easy to pull back on it. So I think that's something, kind of thinking outside the box and looking at other ideas to try and augment that or add to it and make it better. Because while it is good, that doesn't mean that I don't think it can get better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions about? Oh, did we get it? Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that I'm impressed that you can speak Italian, German, and Spanish.
I can't speak them nearly as fluently as I did when I lived over there, but hey, if I hear it, I can get back into it.
Very good. Appreciate that. Your job working with people with intellectual disabilities. I mean, I'm sure that's a challenge every day. So
It's a challenge if you don't like it.
thank you for doing that.
Do you have any other questions for us?
My only question, just in general, on this process, I know there's multiple other applicants. Whenever a decision is made, that's something, the results in terms of the decision we made,
this is how it was voted on each candidate. I feel like that would be very important to put out, in the issue of transparency and just let everybody know. Anybody that's applying for the position as an adult should be able to handle yes or no. Because obviously for one person, it's gonna be yes, for the rest it would be no. So I think, I don't know legally, Mr. Leland, how that would function, if that has to be put out there. But I feel like whether or not it has to, I think it would be good, and I think it would go a long way again to build that trust between both council and city.
The process is the next borough meeting. We will appoint something. That's pretty much it. It's policy that's already in place. Every community does that.
The vote takes place.
It takes place.
Sure, so all deliberation regarding who is appointed to council and regarding the candidates will take place at next Monday's business meeting. So if you attend or zoom into it, council will actually be going through each of the applicants and deliberating on who ultimately gets the appointment.
I appreciate you clearing that up. Thank you.
And then if we appoint in October, you probably would be sworn in November.
That's something we can also discuss at next month's, or next week's meeting, whether to do the swearing in at that meeting or at sometime before November. So I'll have a memo actually to council regarding all the specifics of that.
Yeah, like I said, that's just the transparency issue. That's my big thing. Whether
It has to be in public, so.
Correct.
Plenty of transparency there.
correct. Other than that, I didn't have anything else. Anybody else?
But yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We didn't ask if there was any public feedback.
Comment. They want to-
We have, we do have a couple minutes, and certainly, as we've done, if anybody has anything they would like to say, public feedback.
How many more candidates are there?
Two.
Two more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted information. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, we have some time. Pardon me?
One of the other two candidates.
Let's see.
One's at 8,
Tonight.
one's at 8.
So we don't have to.
Tonight.
Wait.
We will interview those tonight. All the candidates will be interviewed this evening. And if they're earlier, then we'll just get them early. So we have,
Jennifer is here, if you would like to move forward.
Mrs. Hobbs is here.
Have a seat, and state your name and address, please.
Yeah, put your name and address.
Jennifer House, 161 Sheldon Avenue.
And, the process is gonna be, each of us are gonna ask you a question. We certainly like any statements you'd like to make up front. Any questions you might have along the line, we certainly welcome that. Also, as I've been telling everybody, and I sincerely, I think we all need, thank you for stepping up. Anyone who steps up is, it's great. It's great to see people want to be local. So, you have something opening you would like to begin with, or we could just start asking questions, whatever.
I think I'll answer your questions and then I would imagine I would have questions.
Okay. We will begin, and Emily, you,
Okay, so one of the questions we've been asking several people is, based on your time in Green Tree, what are things that you feel are the greatest challenges that you see facing Green Tree in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And what role do you think council can play in managing them? And how would you feel your role in that process?
I think because Green Tree we're limited in space, right? We're a little over 2 square miles. So there's going to be infrastructure needs, keeping up with the infrastructure. I do feel, as the previous gentleman said, small businesses, I really prefer to see small locally owned businesses as opposed to some of the chains that have been coming in. I think that goes a long way in a community to support small businesses from the people that live there. So I see those being issues. I think handling traffic and activities for people. And keeping people engaged. I think people kind of can get siloed sometimes, busy with families, kids, and they tend to really only stick with what their family needs at any given time. And as a community, to be able to anticipate what those needs are as families grow and expand, you know, what resources are in place for people with small families versus seniors and the aging population. How can we become more accessible to a growing and diverse community? And so council does play a role in that, in being able to have, you know, take a pulse of the community at any given time and anticipate those needs and be able to suggest improvements or changes to whatever the community may need to make it a more livable place.
I know that you've lived in Green Tree for the last 20 years.
Correct.
And you indicated that for the past 3 years you've been volunteering on the Green Tree Oktoberfest.
Yes.
So what was your role or what was your volunteerism?
So I'm on the Oktoberfest Planning Committee and have been for the last 3 years. I really wanted to become more involved in the community, and I really enjoy Oktoberfest. I love going to it. And I wanted to have a hand in what it took to put it on. I wanted to see behind the scenes and how I can help with that. So the planning committee starts every year in around February or March, meets monthly, and everybody is assigned or volunteers for various tasks. And then I'm up there for the entire day, even before it opens to after it closes, just helping out in any way. This past year, I did tickets, I did the golf cart, I did the games. So
Very good. Thank you. I noticed that you've worked for Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Yes.
2007 to the present.
correct.
Could you explain how your job responsibilities and duties would help you be a council person?
Sure. So Thermo Fisher Scientific is a very large biotech. We do have a headquarters here in Pittsburgh. However, it is a global company. So I am not office-based. I'm a field-based employee. And it's a matrix organization, which means I work not only within my own business unit, but I have to support business units outside of my direct day-to-day job. And then other business units have to support what I do as well. So there is a lot of collaboration, a lot of compromise. And because we do support customer scientists and clinicians, we always do have to come together to figure out what is best for the customer and the scientists, not necessarily what's best for me personally or a
Collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm up next. And what do you know about the role of the local elected official?
So I know that Green Tree is a home rule charter, and the State Board Council is what votes on ordinances and amendments and makes decisions for the community with regard to community programs, community services that are available. I know that you all serve 4-year terms when you're elected. You can be up for re-election as the public sees fit.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Red.
Jared, thanks for showing interest in the council seat. My question is a little bit more specific. You may have heard it, I've asked the same question to the other candidates. What do you know about the concerns of the community or the swimming pool?
Oh, I know a lot about the concerns. I have been attending the past few council meetings. Sometimes when I'm not available to attend in person, I do Zoom in. I do know that it was voted on over the summer. So I was actually shocked at the last council meeting at how many people attended and voiced displeasure over something that was already voted on. So I was aware of the talks and the planning. I was aware of the meetings. I put my trust in the council to make a decision that benefits the community. I am a full pass holder. My whole family is. We've been pass holders for years. So I'm excited to see, what a new pool design brings. I think we do need a new pool. And I'm putting my trust in the council.
So, so you said you were shocked to see that many people
Oh,
voiced their
yeah.
concern. So what do you say to those people? Even though that there was workshop meetings and things that happened prior to the vote, what do you say to those people that voice their frustration and concerns?
I would say it's really important to be informed in what's going on in your community. So I would be curious as to why all of a sudden there were so many people that wanted to voice concerns that didn't do so earlier, just based on what I've heard from council meetings. I didn't go to the workshop meetings. I have talked to several members of the council about the pool, and I was satisfied with the answers that I received. I did stay through for the entire council meeting last month, and I saw Ms. Barron's presentation with all of the data that was presented. And so I can understand the community's frustration, but at the same time, I would ask, where's the personal responsibility in staying informed as to what's going on in your community and what it's
So you put that on the residents for not knowing, or you put it on the borough as a people shared responsibility? Or you put it on the borough for not informing the residents?
well, I mean, it was on the website. That would be up to you how you decide to inform people, so I wouldn't have had a say prior to that. So maybe there could have been different ways to inform people, but I don't know what those discussions were prior to everything coming out.
Thank you.
Mr. Payne?
Yes, I want to keep everything fair and ask the same question. What do you know about Oktoberfest? And what do you think about Oktoberfest? However, I value your service on Oktoberfest. So let me ask you, what do you think about putting a sound barrier along the parkway to protect Park Edge and Sheldon from all of this?
Oh, I think that would be great. I live on Sheldon and I walk the loop, we call it the loop. I walk the loop quite a bit. My family walks the loop, and when we were looking at houses, we did look at a couple on Park Edge and would not have moved forward with them because of so where I'm at on Sheldon is I don't really hear the noise unless it's a really loud truck or an accident or something, but when we go down to the park, it certainly is very, very evident. I would be in favor.
Next up, Ms. Barron.
Yes, I have been asking the same question, but I believe you answered what I've been asking, in the mayor's response. So I'll give my other question that I prepared. So let's imagine you're talking with someone completely unfamiliar with Braintree. You've lived here for 20 years, you serve on things in the community. What do you tell them about the community and why you've chosen it as your home and why you choose to stay here?
So I would say that it's a small, walkable, friendly community. Part of the reason we chose it is at the time I was working at the University of Pittsburgh. And my husband was up in Cranberry, so the location is really ideal. We're at the Parkway, we can be downtown, go downtown for a number of events. I was just in Hamilton one Saturday. So we utilize downtown all of the time. Getting into Oakland is easy, getting out to the airport is easy, which I have to do quite a bit now. So location really was important and just the community feel. I let my daughter walk around. She walks to the library all the time. We feel very safe here. Our neighbors have been in place for a very, very long time. They told us all about the borough and the community and the families that lived here before we moved in. So I just got a good feel when we were looking to purchase the house.
Would you like to say anything, any questions, any statements, or council has any more questions?
I would say thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to potentially be involved with the Green Tree community. I'm not leaving, I'm not going anywhere. I'm very happy here. I guess one thing I would ask is there has been a lot of conflict at the last couple borough meetings. And how do you go home from that? You know, how does that affect you in your daily life? Or do you keep everything here in this room after the meetings and it disappears when you walk out the door?
I mean, I'll speak to that directly because a lot of it has come directly to me. I would like to say that I leave it all, but I don't, because these are your community members. They're people that live next door to you. They're people who go to school with your kids or are on teams with your kids or play at the pool or park or anywhere. It's really hard. I generally don't engage with it outside of my council perspectives. I love everyone in this community. I work with a lot of people in various roles here, both as a resident, as a person who worked for the borough, and now on council. I think it is about being professional. I think it is not feeding into rumors and things that have been happening. But yeah, I mean, I'm very thankful that I have a supportive family. I'm thankful that I'm thankful for my open communication that I have with our borough manager. But yeah, I mean, it can be hard. I think any time that you work with the public, it's difficult. Again, I can speak from a little more experience there because that is my job and has been for, close to 20 years of being a person out front. I've had people call me on the phone, not from the borough this time, but to tell me that me and my daughter were going to hell because of things that I did in my week. So there are, that stays with you. That is a trauma and that is really difficult. But I come here every day because I believe that I can help make this community stronger. And I do vote with as much data and information that I possibly can, and I stand by that. So it is just about continuing to be open, but also recognizing that like you're a human and you can have those feelings, and just try to be I try every day to just be a good role model for myself and for everyone in the family. Again, in the community. I can't speak for everyone here, but as someone who has had lots of very visceral things be said about me and to me, both online, in email, on the phone, and in person, I hold it deep in my heart, and it's very sad, but I still believe in what I'm doing every day.
I get bullied right here on this stance. Once I leave, whether it's a church, it's a school, ball field, sportsman bash, hockey rink, phone calls, emails, after these meetings, in the neighborhood, you name it, anywhere in this community, I'm there. And I appreciate that. People say, oh, Dave, you're on an island up there. Yeah, I'm on an island up here. I'm bullied by people on this council during the meetings. People tell me about it. Then I go out there and I'm not on an island. And that's what makes me feel good. So I leave here and I think about it all the time. People remind me and thank me for the service that I've done. So no issues for me except when I'm sitting right here.
Myself, as being a council person, you take for granted that sometimes, people agree and sometimes people disagree with you. However, like a good example, when COVID first hit, myself and David Ray, we wanted to keep this swimming pool open. We thought that was the best thing for the public. Give them a place to go out in the sun. It would be an activity, it would be safe. Well, David and I, we fought, and we finally convinced other councils to change their mind and open the swimming pool. But even though we argued tremendously, we were arguing about this issue. After this issue was over and we went home, we still, stayed friends. We didn't hold it against anyone personally, because in the end, we're all in this together. I mean, we're all neighbors and we're all here to really make everyone happy and benefit Green Tree. No, there's not any group here that's trying to, do something bad for Green Tree. We're all in this together and we're all trying to make Green Tree better. So after you leave council, you can argue, be on opposite sides, but once you leave here, we're still all Green Tree residents and neighbors. And that's something really important.
Camina is the newest member of council currently, but not for long. I came into it kind of Pollyanna, it's here to do good for Braintree. I have seen both sides. I've seen people be very supportive. I've also seen a very unfortunate side of the community. Issues can be heated, but I do not feel, whether it's on the dais or elsewhere, that personal attacks are warranted. I don't think it serves the community. I don't think it serves the citizens. And I hope that moving forward with new members on council, that we can come to a more civilized behavior. Does it stay with you after a heated meeting, or when you're told what's being said about you on social media, whether you like it or not? Yes, it does. Does it affect your home and your family? It can. But if you're dedicated to the community, sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is part of the job. It does definitely change your perspective on certain people that you thought may have been a friend that have literally lambasted you and said horrible things that then say hi to you in public. That's always fun. But it is part of the job. If you're taking a public facing position, you have to understand that sometimes your decisions may not be liked by everyone. In the same way, when you talk to your kids and say, no, you can't do this, and they're mad at you, it's part of the deal. So it is not, if you are uncomfortable with making decisions that may not please everyone, it's not the best position necessarily to take. But our job as elected officials is also to work with each other. And so that is what, we try to do. We come into these meetings and we have our executive sessions. We try to work for the good of Green Tree, and that is what we were elected to do. So I would say that is my advice as a new member is stiff upper lip, understand that you won't always be popular, but you're also trying to do what's best for the community and what people left you to do.
And I would just echo what a lot of people have been saying. It's a tough job to be able to put a lot of personal stuff away from you. Sometimes you get discouraged because you're trying to do the right thing. You are doing the right thing. For years, we've been on council a while, and we really never had this for the last 4 or 5 years. Everybody's experiencing it. You have people that it's all about me, and we understand. It's very hard. But by the same token, you have a rough night and someone calls you and says, hey, thank you for sticking up to the bullies that are trying to get you and get counsel. So you get some good feedback from people saying, thank you for what you're doing. It means a lot to this borough. And that's very helpful. But it's basically, as Ron said, once we make a decision, we move on. It's over. We don't go back and attack people because they made a decision. You're allowed, you're supposed to make a decision, you're supposed to make a vote. It's the way it is. So and it's a little trying right now, but it's still rewarding because you're helping your borough move ahead. Being able to step up to do that is very important in this world. It all starts at local government. So give that try. Anything else?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Candace.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any thoughts from the,
Can I ask a question I have?
pardon me?
Am I allowed to ask a question I have? No.
That's fine with me.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I'm Christine Short, 251 Park Edge. In the 20 years that you've lived in the borough, before council went Zoom, how many times did you attend a council meeting in person?
Oh, I'll put it down right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Mr. Hobbs, for being here. That's it. You can stay or you can leave.
So, give it back.
Do you want to move on to the next?
Yeah, we're okay. I think we can move on.
You were putting you right in the hot seat, right?
Oh, good.
Start.
Need a minute or
I'll
two?
just do it.
Good.
You can just, have a seat, get comfortable, and then you can just state your name and address.
Okay. At goal of 17 Clearview Drive.
Okay, the process we have is, if you would like to make an opening statement or something to that effect, that's fine. Otherwise, we're gonna get questions from everybody on council
That's fine.
and also the mayor. And if we have any time left, we could ask some more questions, or you could certainly ask questions to us. We're open to all that. So we can begin if you have something, an opening statement, or we can go to questions.
Well, I can just make an opening statement that I'll put my name in because I have a lot of experience with community association management in the private sector, not in the public sector. But I've done almost everything that you're talking about. Financial management, we did the budgets, you know, and we did the collections, and we made the bills, and we did the financial reports in our office. The physical management, we did the contracting. We, you know, arranged for everything from swimming pool operations to replacing roads and parking lots and painting houses and whatever you think of. We did the administrative management, which had to do with preparing for elections and preparing for meetings, you know, getting all the letters out, being the business office where people call. And then we did what I call social management, which is a polite term for being the police force. We were the ones that had to enforce the rules and regulations and collect the assessments if people weren't paying. So we did the whole thing, and what I wanted to do is present that option to the council to see if that kind of a history would be something that would be available to help you, to help the Greentree residents to move forward with the community. I've been here 20 years. It was a great decision. I like it. So if there's anything I can do to assist or help, I will. I've not been available the last few years because I've been very busy. I'm lightening up the load now, and I've often looked at joining a committee. I have not had the chance because I was working over at the Greentree Sportsplex, where I started just, you know, selling chips and pop, and ended up being the front desk supervisor in charge of hiring and training all the new people there. So I went from 10 hours a week to 30 hours a week. I said, that's enough. I'm on the board with my condominium, Pennsylvania condominium, vice president there. And this is my 4th year there, going back to the sportsplex. At the end of March, I said, I'm done. I gotta quit. So I'm not working there full time anymore. Every now and then they'll call me in if somebody doesn't show up because I'm only a mile away. But with the condo, I'm ending my 4th year on the board there in January. So I'm not intending to renew that or run again, which would also open me up for next year. So the two main things that were keeping me fairly heavily occupied are one's done and the other one's going to be next. So that would open me up, and I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to be of assistance here.
You know, property at Pennsbury, is that how?
Yes, yeah, rental.
I was gonna say, I've seen you at Green Tree Sports Club after March, so I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, well, they called me in.
Yeah.
And I still have to go there to work out with them.
Okay, we're gonna start our questions,
Okay.
and we'll start off with Mr. Mayor.
Yes, hi, Ed. He's one of the, I won't say regular, but he comes to the mayor's office hours. I've met Ed on a number of occasions, and he's always positive and trying to look at the bright side of things. So I appreciate that. So in regard to, I noticed you were 21 and a half years in Pennsylvania Army National Guard.
Correct.
Could you say what capacity?
Yeah, well, in the Guard, I enlisted, which is a private, but it started in the Armor Battalion, the 1st Battalion, 103rd Armor. For the first couple of years, I was the medical platoon leader. And then after that, I switched to Armor Platoon leader for a tank company. And then eventually company commander for a tank company, an armor company down in Freedom was that company C. And then when they offered me the position of being the supply sergeant or the supply officer, I thought, no, I don't do this. So I ended up going to brigade staff, where I ended up becoming the nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare officer, which was not quite as difficult. And ended up with the communications officer, which got my promotion to So I had a number of different positions.
How long have you lived in Green Tree?
20 years. I was gonna come this July, but to thank everybody for the 20 great years, but I ended up being on vacation. So
And in regard to experience on attending council meetings, and
Yes.
you've attended many in the past.
yes, I've had a similar position to Judy's where we sometimes attend 2 or 3 a week. We had 52 associations when I sold the company, 18 people, 5 managers, but we were doing it all.
In particular with Green Tree, have you attended any of the Green Tree meetings?
Well, all the Green Tree meetings here, yes, I come, and if I don't attend, if something happens, I don't attend, I look at the video. In fact, your last was like 3 hours and 28 minutes, I didn't get to bed until 2 o'clock.
You made it through?
Yeah, I did.
And just lastly, you mentioned the Gilmore, real estate company, for how long, was that company in operation?
I opened the company in 1984 and, under my name, and then just converted it out of my name because everybody wanted to talk to me. So I converted it to Community Management Solutions, when I brought a partner in and an accountant, who was a partner, and then converted it to a Community Management Professionals when I assumed, purchased another competitor's company. So it was the same thing in just 3 different names based on as we adjusted and grew.
Between 1984 and what year?
I sold it in 2017.
Thank you.
Pretty much I'm next. I know you mentioned a lot of things that you're familiar with, but what do you know about the actual role of a local elected official?
Well, I think what the role, again, is gonna be similar but different because your requirements and restrictions are much more specific than ours. You need to get very, very familiar with the requirements of a municipal official. Never having been one, but dealing with a lot of them because in all of our properties and all of our communities, we would go to the municipal officials if we needed something. If sometimes county, sometimes local. It's certainly their responsibility, in my opinion, is similar to what I was, which is to work in the best interest of their community. Using their own judgment, their own information, their own training, but I always try to do what was in the best long interest of our community. So that's what I think he would try to do. That's what I observed.
Next up, Mr. Ray.
Ed, as a visionary leader, what big ideas do you have for Green Tree that will make the biggest impact in the community?
I read your plan, not 170 pages, that was, I skipped a few, but I got the nature options. And what I would like to try and do is, promote them. Too many times things get lost in the shuffle and don't get finished. So what my goals would be, even when I did anything, was to keep pursuing it until it's done. The other thing I want to do is I always try to do, get 1% more on anything that we do. But little things like in a contract, if you're doing a maintenance contract, I always try to slip in the contract that they would give us the most trained and qualified crew, not a new crew. Something simple like that, but I try to get the 1% more without paying 1% more whenever you can. Look at everything from, I used to tell the staff all the time, don't come in with a preconceived idea. Come up with any idea you can think of. And if it seems silly, that's okay, because somewhere between preconceived and silly, there's probably a good answer. So I always want to do there, and my biggest grand idea here is just to be efficient. Be efficient and be active, involve the community, because that's one thing that we always try to do with our community, to get them involved. Because when things surprise people, the first thing they do is get upset. So try to, and that's it anywhere. So I try to keep the community involved and try to listen to what people say, regardless of how they're saying it to me. Whether it's nice or nasty, quiet or loud. And because sometimes you come up with a good idea. Always be open with ideas.
So hypothetically, if there's a communication gap and community didn't get the information they needed in time, then they found out after the fact, how would you address that?
Well, what you try to do is always improve. If it's a mistake, we're all human, none of us are perfect. And the same with an organization as well as a person. If there's something that doesn't go well, then what you do is look at it and say, like in the military, after action report. What did not go well? What can we do to improve it?
And what's it gonna, how long is it gonna take, and what's it gonna cost, and how do we do it? So you look at that and say, these things did not work well. Some of the things that, some of my properties, I just did this at Pensbury about 2 days ago. We had a Saturday meeting. And people were concerned about bids, are we getting good bids and stuff like that? So what we decided to do at Pensbury, if we could do it, is we're gonna open all our bids in public. That way, at a certain time, at a certain day, at this time, we're opening the bids, so the ones that be there, be there. It's not a big deal, but if it makes people happy, I can do it that way. Okay, thank you.
You move on to Mr. Payne.
Yes, Ed. My first question would be, what would you like to talk about? Oktoberfest or the Sonnenberg? Seriously.
Well, I'll start with this. We'll talk about.
Okay, so Oktoberfest, what do you know about it and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, going down to the, information on the recreational part, the first recreational thing, I'll put back up there, that I did was the senior picnic. Other than that, it's pretty well participated and pretty well occupied. I have not participated in a lot of the recreational events just because I've been busy. Oktoberfest, I looked at the current, Green Tree newsletter. And that's the page I'm on, the Oktoberfest. So I've just been looking at all the different things, the people that have contributed towards it. I saw people contribute towards it, different companies, different people. As far as the events, other than that, not in depth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we move on to Ms. Barrett.
Yeah, so my questions you've answered in different ways, so I'll present a different one, you've spoken a lot about your different experiences on many different things, and you are someone who actively comes to our meetings. So do you have any areas of service provided by the borough that you believe could be improved upon? And what do you think council's role in these service improvements are? And or what resources would the borough need to make these improvements?
That's one more question.
I know.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'll repeat it. If you
No, you probably have to at some point.
That's okay.
Really, what I think that I get very interested in, I'm very much of a, just to say, a tree hugger. I'm very much involved in keeping our planet as clean as possible. So I think things and services that the borough can provide would be assistance in the people in maintaining their communities. We already do it with recycling, but I think that we could provide as much help there as we can. I think that encouragement, not just going out actually and physically working, but training, education, motivation. I always try to give, in our community, we rent the party room, and whoever did the most donation to the food bank will get a free rental of a party room or something. I prefer the carrot rather than the stick, trying to get people to do things. And I try to motivate them that way. So I think that's one thing that we could really work on is that. The other thing that's always an important thing to me is safety. We have a police force here that fortunately, the only thing I've ever done is wave through them. I've never had, let's get better acquainted with the driver's window. So we wave to each other, and that's nice. But I think that the police force is important. I know that they're looking to hire new people, and I think supporting the police is important, as well as, and the things that I was reading, obviously, they do want to become the police are your friend, working with the schools and the school kids, that's important. I think that the things that we can do to do that do not always have to be extremely expensive. They can be done through posters, they can be done through emails, they can be done through Facebook. A lot of times, I think a lot has to do with just motivating the people. I think letting them know what's going on and motivating them to participate. Is there a second part that I missed on that?
You might have mentioned it, touched on it with the posters and stuff, but is there anything that the borough would need to accomplish those things that we don't already have?
Well, I think especially in certain areas, I always like to get professional support where I can get it. There are people and companies that are not looking to spend a ton of money, but there are companies out there that specialize in it. That's what they do. And so I would go to them and say, what are your suggestions? What are your options? What do you have that we could use? So I think that, again, being cost effective is always a priority, being cost effective at the same time that we're trying to, accomplish the information is important.
Okay, Ms. Schwartz.
Answered so many questions already. So your experience has been in residential condominium community type. Obviously, that is a microcosm of what we exist as Braintree Borough. When looking at comparing how you manage that organization and the needs of a larger community like Braintree, what do you think the differences that you would experience would come into play working with a government agency and a full borough versus your experience with these developments?
Well, I think that, like I said earlier on, I think there'd be a lot more, restrictions, so to speak, in following the state statutes as well as the local ordinances that would not be quite as free as I was able to do in the private industry. I used to, little aside, if I can't help it, attorneys here. I used to ask one of our attorneys, if I ask you this question, what would the answer be? If I don't like the answer, I want to ask the question. So she got used to me and said, you're not doing that to me this time. But anyway, so I guess I'm just saying that working towards the good of the whole community, you work on economy, try to economies of scale. And that's something that you have as a benefit being larger. To try to get economies of scale. If I can work with people here to what do I want to say, more multi-year planning is, I think, is important as much as you can go. I know you have your 10-year plan here and you have multi-year planning, but that's always been a big deal for me, is to work with multi-year planning so that people know what's coming. Not just us, but the people themselves in the whole community, keep that open. I just think that these things in a larger scale, you have opportunities. I don't want to concentrate totally on financial, but opportunities to do things for the community. You know, I used to say in our communities too, this isn't just about the bricks and sticks of the building. This is about a living environment. Let's give you a good environment to live in. And I think that's something that happens here a lot. Even though I haven't involved in social, I think it has an excellent social purpose for the people. And that can be continued. You know, and give it additional options. I don't know if that answers your question. If you want to.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do you have any other questions of us? Any things you would like to say?
Yeah, I would like to ask you a question, and that whoever wants to answer it, what are you looking for in a replacement for a council?
Mine's pretty simple, one that represents the people.
Okay.
That's where you step up. Obviously, you want to do the job, and that's very important.
I'll answer mine. I want someone who thinks for themselves when they're going through their deliberations and comes prepared with information so that they can make educated.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I would second Emily, and just someone who is willing to do the work. It's a lot of work. Our meetings last long. We have a lot of, there's just a lot of work that, you know, anytime you're doing something like this, there's more work than you think. So yeah, just someone who's willing to do that work.
So that's true. That's one of the things, the benefit I have is being retired. I have a little more time. And one thing I hate to do is sit at home. I have to turn my TV on at 6 months.
You're saving yourselves some advertisements.
Especially at this point. Anybody else? That's it.
Thank you very much for being there. Once again, really appreciate you coming in.
Well, and thank you for listening to me. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Anybody from the audience have any comments, questions?
Sam Solopek, 1195 Green Tree Road. I want to thank all the candidates who interviewed tonight. Long before it was referred to as bullying by community leaders in this room, civil discourse in America was revolutionary. It was a testament of a changing world where everyday citizens not only had the right, but had the duty to ask questions of their elected officials, to challenge their position on issues, and to advocate for the needs of a new and growing nation. A willingness to engage in dialogue, sometimes turbulent, was key to the success of the American political system. When I look at the council before me, I largely see a homogeneous body lacking in the growth afforded to groups open to different thoughts and opinions. At some point, the selected body decided that exclusion was preferred to inclusion, silence was preferred to communication, and conformity was preferred to diversity. I have no doubt that governing is no easy in an echo chamber, but I implore you to seek new understanding, to welcome those who challenge your views and the world and community around you, and not to shy away from the discomfort of confrontation. Growth seldom occurs in a world plagued by comfort and contentment. Select the candidate that will challenge you as community leaders, make you ask questions of yourselves and your views, and help this council to better serve the diverse voices of Braintree. After hearing the candidates today, Jeff Natali has my support.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I think that is it. Thank you very much. We're going to close the meeting now. Appreciate everybody attending.
Information session.
Pardon me?
Information session, not meeting, just you wanna.
Okay, information session, excuse me.
That I would like to make a motion that we adjourn this information session.
We don't need- It's an information, it's not a meeting.
We didn't call it to order.
Sure, we didn't call it.
Yep, we can just leave.
We can call it. Information.